Hi everybody, welcome back. This is update number 3 of the CH&FR Railroad's Frost River Subdivision, my N-scale model railroad layout centered on the fictional town of Frost River, Kentucky. Today we're going to take a look at benchwork construction methods, and we'll take a tour of my current progress on the layout construction, track laying, wiring, backdrops, and lighting. And we'll take a look at a couple of special projects that I have in the works. So I hope you enjoy. Without further ado, let's take a tour. Okay, we'll start off here on the narrow shelf. And we'll see that we have track laid the full length of the shelf, as well as the backdrop at least partially mounted in place. We have a little valley here that will have a bridge and a trestle on it cut out. And track is laid all the way up around, excuse me, peninsula, as we'll see later. If I zoom back here a little bit, you can see I've also installed the valance, at least temporarily. Need to take it down for painting. And underneath that valance, we have, oh, can you see them there? LED lighting strips, also temporarily installed for testing. So we have this wireless remote here, which allows us to turn on the LED lighting. This is a sort of a daylight white color, around 4,000 or 5,000 kelvins, I think. This is one LED strip, and I'm going to add a second one, plus possibly a third that will be on a little lip that will hang out here, because as you can probably tell from the video, the overhead lighting is pretty good. The front edge of the cars are not as well lit as I would like, so I'm going to try to work on this lighting situation and get some more front lighting on there. Next thing I'll show you, this is the deck girder bridge that I'm working on. It is a micro-engineering 80-foot bridge, and I've got it assembled, painted, and I'm doing the salt weathering technique, where you paint an underlying rust color and then cover the sides with salt along the bottom edge. You can kind of see it. We'll get it under the lighting there so you can see better. And then you overpaint with we'll call it the official paint color for the bridge. Once that's done, the next step, which I haven't done yet, is you wash the salt away, and it leaves a pattern that resembles having the weathering where the paint has peeled and chipped away in large chunks. So coming up soon, I'm going to get around to removing that salt and revealing the paint chip feature. Now this bridge is going to go on the rearward of the two tracks here. And underneath the front track here, I'm going to build a trestle. I have all the pieces cut for that, the wood. It's going to be scratch-built wood trestle, and I am staining that wood in preparation for assembly. So hopefully we'll see that on our next tour. So moving right around here, this is one of the problem spots. I'm having a little bit of trouble here at this joint. Probably going to have to rework it to make sure that this track lines up carefully or correctly. It's not lining up well, so I'm having trouble getting the trains through there. I think it'll work fine once I relay the track through there. I'll get it nice and even and square. Move down underneath here. Hopefully there's enough light for you to see. This here is the Microswitch that I'm using to, let's see if we can fix the focus here. This is the Microswitch that I'm using to control the power to the track leading up to the bridge, so that when this bridge is not in place, when this bridge is not here, the track over here goes dead. Help prevent a train from coming down the hill and coming out. The bridge itself is powered through this set of Anderson power pole connectors, and a matching set on the other end brings the power through the bridge and on down the shelf. That switch is another point that's going to have to be worked on. It doesn't line up very well with the end of the bridge, and so it doesn't switch quite right. That's why you may have noticed that credit card underneath there. It's an old card I was using for spreading glue. So we do have the track laid all the way up around here to the two diamonds. This is the industry spur that serves the Dixie Cup plant, and this is the main line coming through here. This track here, the turnout, and the track leading up to the crossing, and in fact this crossing track itself right here, are not glued in place. Only this part is. But this is all fully wired on the branch line coming across. And you can see we come around to the other side here with the tracks in front of the chemical plant. I have all the turnouts laid, glued in place, and wired. I have left off the actual industry tracks because I want to wait and align those with the structure when I get the structure design complete. But I also have the turnout here in place. This is kind of the end of the line at the moment, but this track of the turnout, the diverging track, will go to the lumber yard, which will be right over here, and this track will join back in with the main line out there where those other turnouts are. As far as the track layout, that's pretty much all that's been done so far. Aside from the problem over here in the corner, that track is fully functional and runs pretty well. I've also temporarily installed a UP5 panel here just to test out the space and the way I did the cutout, make sure everything works fine. And I have the fascia laid or installed all the way around here, waiting for painting. So let's pause for a moment while I step around to the other side, and we'll move on to some other. Okay, so while we're here, we'll just take a quick closer look at the track layout here. We have the branch main track comes along the foreground here, ending at the end of the layout. And there's a runaround formed by these two turnouts here. The industry track's going off to the left and to the right. Once we get up here, this is how the main track splits. As I mentioned before, we've got, again, track is just laying here, it's not connected or anything, but this is the industry spur for the Dixie Cup plant over in the corner. And this is the main line, which will come around. And once we get past this turnout here, all of the mainline track leading the rest of the way around the peninsula will be concrete ties. In fact, the mainline track is going to be concrete ties as much as I can the rest of the way around. I think it'll make it easier for folks to figure out which track is the main, especially when we get over here in the middle of the yard where there's a lot of tracks. And I think it will look nice, and it's also prototypical for this area. We have a lot of concrete ties, especially on the CSX lines through here. So moving underneath, we're going to take a look at the benchwork construction and how this all fits. Okay, so down here underneath we're going to see how the benchwork is constructed. The entire layout around the walls is supported by these heavy-duty shelf tracks. These are made by a company called Nape and Vaught. They're readily available, and they'll hold quite a bit of weight, about 400 pounds per stand. Those are screwed directly into the wall studs, and we have these shelf supports that are mounted to them here, and they are roughly every 2 feet along the perimeter of the layout. The benchwork itself is constructed of 1/2-inch plywood, which is cut into structural members, and also there's a sheet layer forms the top. Basically, this is a box structure in sections. You can see see how I can show you this the best. So this corner here, all the way over to the peninsula, is one section. And then we begin another section here. You can see that I have the sections bolted together with wing nuts and bolts. This section continues across to the corner, and then a third section goes across where the Stanley forage facility will be. And there is another section in the corner over there where Dixie Cup Factory is. That's another section there. So there's roughly, I think, might have made 5 sections plus the peninsula itself, which is constructed somewhat differently. Now, a couple of features I've built into this that I will show you. If you notice, these cross members here they don't go all the way up to the top. And the reason I did that was I wanted to make sure that I had a chaseway for the wiring to flow through. I'll show you some of that in a minute. But I did that by using these corner blocks being about a ½ an inch taller than the cross members, and that leaves a nice gap. It's still very structurally rigid. Everything is connected at the corners, and the back wall is full height, as are most of the front wall areas, except for in places like here where I knew that I was going to have wiring coming out and the fascia was going to cover that. So see an example over here of how that wiring finds its way through the gap, and that is easily accessible, allows the wiring to flow without any restriction of trying to go through a particular hole or through any particular position. I have run into a couple of odd locations, such as here. This is a frog feeder wire connected to the frog of the switch directly above it. I use green to indicate that, black and red for the left and right rails of the track. And it's kind of outside of the space, but I'll still be able to put it through this gap here and connect it to the bus wire over here, even though that track is on, well, you can't see my finger, on this side of the wall. Now, the peninsula, being somewhat freestanding, is built somewhat more rigid, whereas the wall shelves are basically 3 inches tall. This is 4 inches tall before the foam is added. It gives a little more rigidity since this does need to kind of stand by itself. It is bolted to the shelf units on this end, but it's about just 5.5 feet long, so it needs a good bit of self-support. Okay, so the peninsula is supported by these legs that I decided to stain. So they have angle braces at the top. Legs come down, and there is horizontal bracing around 3 sides at the bottom, which allows me to put a lot of junk underneath the peninsula, so-called temporarily. Hopefully we'll get that cleaned up at some point. So 4 legs, basically making it a really tall table. It is fairly high. It's got a high center of gravity, but once I got the legs connected together and braced and then got it bolted to the shelf unit, you can see it's not going anywhere. It's quite sturdy, quite stable. Very pleased with that. This was also one of my first attempts, my very first attempt at actually staining wood, and so I'm pretty pleased with how that turned out as well. I think it's a nice look, and with the wood floor, it sort of helps the legs disappear visually. Let's take a quick look underneath here at the bus wiring. You can see I'm using suitcase connectors. I have 14 gauge solid red and black bus wire running along here, connecting it to the top of the, or the bottom underside of the layout with these adhesive tie brackets. I've got red and black bus wires, and my frogs, all of my turnout frogs are have got the power wire attached, dangling down here, just need to be connected. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do about that in just a minute. And over here you can see the back side of that UP5 panel. Again, testing how that's going to work. I think it's going to be pretty good. It's not actually in there straight and square. I'll have to fix that before I do the final installation. It's slightly tilted. We'll get there. Also, it turns out these cross braces underneath here are a really handy place to store clamps. Probably won't leave them there permanently, but while things are under construction, I know where to find them. Okay, let's move back over here to the shelf. And I will show you the throw bar switches. You're going to have to look really, really close for this. Right here, make sure our focus is good. Right here are the switches that are controlling the throw bars for the turnouts. And these are micro slide switches. And they happen to have just the right throw for an N-scale, focus, there we go, for an N-scale turnout, as you can see there. The other nice thing about them is that I'm using the contacts on the switch to switch the power for the frog. And so I get both of those for about 20 or 30 cents a switch. This is pretty darn cheap. And they're very low profile, almost too hard to see. But I think they work really well. I'm quite pleased with them. Again, sorry for the focus. It's hard to hold the camera here close. And let's see. There you can see that's a nice view of it. This was my first switch install. It's a little bit crude. Needs a little cleanup. But it works really well. So I've only got about 30 more of those to install. Alrighty then, I'm going to show you one more little project back over here at the workbench. Okay, now as I may have mentioned somewhere, I am going to have a swing gate blocking the branch line as it crosses the main. So the crew of the branch line train will have to stop, open and close that swing gate as they pass through. This is the control circuitry that's going to power that. I have a little stepper motor that's going to be connected to the shaft of the post of the gate. We'll rotate it 90 degrees in and out. And so I built this little board here. This is an Arduino Pro Mini, little microprocessor, microcontroller board. And this red board is a stepper motor driver board that is connected to it. And here is the printed circuit board that I built to mount those two. Got a couple of spare copies. And so basically there will be two push buttons, one on each side of the peninsula, and if you push either one of those buttons and hold it in, the Arduino will rotate the gate 90 degrees out of position, and it will hold it there as long as you hold the button in. Once you release the button, it will move the gate back into the closed position. So we have power connection, we have button connectors, we have a connector for a home sensor that will tell me when the gate is in the closed position, and then we have the stepper motor driver outputs. And it's on this nice little board that, for some strange reason, while I'm usually pretty obsessive about that, I completely forgot to put mounting screw holes on. So we'll use some double-sided tape or Velcro or something to get it attached on the underside of the layout. So that's in the works. These are parts you may notice they move around a little bit. I haven't soldered them in place yet. But that's all ready to go. I've tested the code and everything. So once I get that wired up and I get the mechanical connections to the gate in place, that's going to be all ready. So I'll show you one more thing over here that I've done. This is my Raspberry Pi computer mounted under the layout, and it's going to be the host computer for the layout, running JMRI and providing the dispatcher services, controlling turnouts, and doing all of that. And right next to it is my Digitrax PR3 interface that will be connected into the LocoNet to that Raspberry Pi. And I've got it wired up here, velcroed in place. I have a wireless Wi-Fi, USB Wi-Fi connector, and a wireless keyboard connected to it. And just for right now, temporarily for testing purposes, I have this this little USB webcam here connected. I may or may not use that. I do plan to put a second Raspberry Pi over underneath the yard, and it will provide the infrared camera for monitoring what's going on in the hidden staging area. So I have that going on. But we've got the the monitor here that's been here for a while. You've seen it. I've decommissioned the big old noisy computer that was sitting there, and that's going to go somewhere else in the house, or maybe just get shut down. We'll see. That's pretty much all I've got to show for this update tonight. So we're moving along with track laying slowly. One of the things that's holding me up right now is making sure that I've decided exactly which ones of these switches on the main line are going to be powered, because I want to make sure that I pre-drill the holes for the servo motor wire to control those. And there's a lot of holiday family stuff going on. We're making slow progress, little projects here and there moving along, and a lot that's going on. I'm pretty excited about what's the future's holding here. So I guess that's episode 2 of our Frost River update blog. I appreciate you coming by and taking the time to watch this, and I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. Feel free to leave comments, feedback, suggestions, questions, whatever you have in the comments section, and I will do my best to respond to them. I hope I've got a lot more stuff coming in the future that you will enjoy seeing, and many more of these blog entries as the layout comes to life. Again, thanks for watching. Bye, y'all.